Sorry I've not uploaded in a while. We're going to take a look at Odafe Oweh through 2 weeks of the season and how he's showing early signs that he might be just a little bit special. Now, one of the big criticisms of him at Penn State was his lack of ideas and lack of a plan as a pass rusher, but I think he did show an intuitiveness with his hands at the top of the rush to get hands off him even if he wasn't super technical, and you could see that in week 1. Unfortunately, the end zone angle is corrupted on this play, but watch Oweh fire out of his stance from this wide 9 alignment. And he times this double-handed chop down as Leatherwood fires his hands and then dips around the corner, and you can see this forces Carr to step up. I'd like to see him flatten this edge harder. Partly he allows Leatherwood to push him slightly beyond the pocket. You can see here he tries to rip the hands off him to properly flatten, but it's slightly too late in the move to be effective. But it's a really positive sign. We saw this week what Oweh can do with his long arms attacking the ball, and it's a last-ditch attempt from the tackle which stops him getting a strip sack here. Look at him attack Miller's outside hand with this cross-chop move, and then turn the corner. Now I'd like to see him bend a bit better again. You see these short choppy steps rather than any true ankle flexion, and it allows the tackle back into the rep. Look at him go after the ball though with that long right arm. But because of those choppy steps, Miller's able to disrupt him just as he's going to attack the ball. You can see more easily from this angle how he's disrupted right at the opportune moment. I thought this play was really interesting too. Standing up this time rather than having his hand in the ground. And again, you see him swipe the hand off him. But sometimes you do just have to give credit to the opponent because Kenyon Drake, the running back, puts in this vicious chip to completely stymie Oweh's rush. But you see Oweh roll with that momentum and spin inside. So I like that you see the early win. I like that we see the extra attention the offense is already giving him at this point, and then the quick feet and athleticism to adjust. But I mean, even this was a clear progression from earlier in the game. Watch this welcome to the NFL moment where he stunts, comes through the gap clean, and then gets destroyed by Josh Jacobs in pass pro. He gets completely cleaned out here. Boom. He's consistently threatening the outside shoulder of the tackle, and you see that again here. He's affected by the tight end's release. Now this is earlier in the game than some of the other plays I've shown so far, and Miller actually gets his hand into Oweh's chest here. But watch him chop and attack the wrist, and you can see the power because it literally pulls Miller off balance, and Oweh's past the outside shoulder. But like with some of the other reps we've seen, he's slightly too deep when he's turning the corner and ends up harmlessly running the arc. And this is much later in the game, and it's a similar scenario. Again, unfortunately, the end zone angle is corrupted. He goes for the two-handed swipe again, but it looks like Miller's got hands into his chest. But this time, rather than ripping and continuing around the arc, he plants and attacks that inside shoulder and comes back inside. Throughout the off-season, the Ravens media team have been putting out these wired segments, and it's been super interesting watching Justin Houston and Calais Campbell talking with Oweh in some of these snippets, and specifically talking to him about developing counter moves. He's so athletic and long that players are going to have to respect his ability to beat them outside, and those two vets were talking to him about developing a speed to power or an inside counter. And you can see against the Raiders he's a little hesitant or late to engage those counters. But here is how I know that Oweh is super coachable and intelligent, and maybe even a burgeoning superstar. This might be my favourite pass rush rep so far from Oweh, and it comes in week 2 against the Chiefs. Here he is working against the Chiefs' right tackle Lucas Niang, who I liked coming out of TCU in the 2020 draft. You can see Niang scared of getting beat outside because he's hauling ass to get to his depth. And right here, he's already perpendicular to the sideline and expecting the outside rush. He is in a very weak position already. And that's before Oweh's even engaged. So Oweh just takes that runway, takes 3 steps vertically upfield to threaten that outside, and then jabs hard and converts speed to power and attacks the inside shoulder. And look at the power. Niang at this point is holding on for dear life, and Oweh counters and brings his outside arm over to swim back inside. Now that's less than a week between the Raiders game where he was very outside arc oriented to this beautiful compound move where he links different moves together and takes advantage of the tackle's weaknesses and outthinks them through his pass rush. That's incredible progress. And then this move is just ridiculous versus Orlando Brown Jr., whose trade allowed the Ravens to draft Oweh in the first place. And the Ravens have been missing this kind of pass rush for a few years now. 3-man rush, and 2 guys get penetration. Watch Oweh give this Euro step and then fly past Orlando's inside shoulder, who just can't deal with that kind of speed. And these aren't even his most impactful plays. Probably worth pointing out that Oweh has had a hand in all 3 of the Ravens' turnovers so far this season. And on top of that, he had a sack against the Raiders too. I'm starting with this play because it's been 2 weeks and the Ravens have used Oweh in this capacity at the snap a ton already. It's clearly a partial solution to dealing with some of the great tight ends we have early in our schedule. Here he is hiding off at the edge of the screen. Wink's been deploying Oweh to chip and disrupt the route timing and not allow free releases before rushing. And this week it also demonstrates another great tactical innovation by Wink Martindale that massively helped prevent Mahomes from dominating on the scramble drill. Oweh actually doesn't get much contact on Kelsey, but the intention is clear. And then he becomes this delayed or layered rusher that caused so many problems for Mahomes as he scrambled, avoiding initial pressure. And Oweh's just too long and too athletic for Creed Humphrey with that much space and a 2-way go. And he gets the hit on Mahomes that forces the poor decision and the interception to Tavon Young. If I'm honest, when we drafted Oweh, this is how I thought we'd get the most out of him early in his career as a pass rusher, creating space for him with stunts to allow him to attack, not dissimilar to what the Ravens did with Patrick Queen last year. But here's McPhee and Oweh, and you see McPhee get upfield and attack the outside shoulder of the guard to widen the gap for the stunting Oweh in behind. And he flies through the gap to get the quarterback hit that affected the throw, that caused the lucky ricochet, that ended up with Anthony Averett's overtime interception that should have won the game. And here's the play that no one's going to forget for a while. Lined up in this 5-tech, widens with emotion, gets upfield and pushes off the inside shoulder of Orlando. He gets through the gap past Joe Thuney, who's just been delayed inside. Now watch McPhee knife inside and hold up Thuney getting out to Oweh. And you can see Thuney even holds Oweh here, which stops him from making the tackle. But you see his length come into play as he's able to punch that ball out and recover. And to finish off, here's the sack. And to be honest, it might be the least impressive play of the ones I've highlighted in this video. Again, look how off the snap he widens and pushes Waller slightly wider in his route before getting into his rush. You see the hesitation to try and get the tackle to commit, and Leatherwood does really well with his footwork and his hands to stay patient and not overcommit. Oweh misses with the swipe and doesn't affect the hands that have got into his chest. He then tries to rip back up through the outside hand. Now what's good is that you can see throughout he's got his eyes on the quarterback, and that allows him to move to this secondary move. He plants and spins. But I just want to look at this spin because he struggles with the spin because he doesn't have either hand in the tackle's frame. Ideally, you'd see his right arm here attacking Leatherwood's outside shoulder. He'd plant with his inside foot and spin back inside, and then use the back of his outside arm swinging into the back of the tackle to propel him through and get him clean. But you see him here not engaged at all with the tackle with his hands before the spin, and then you also see him plant off this outside foot, and he then has to fight to disengage that outside hand to rip through rather than just propel off the tackle's back with a swinging arm. And yet despite all that, he successfully spins inside with brute force and will. But then here's the impressive part of the rep, the length and the closing speed to finish his play. And again, you can see he's going after the ball with that long arm. I've not even, beyond the one turnover play, put in any running plays here. Oweh's been really sound in the running game throughout college, and that's held over to the NFL. There's never been any doubts really about his ability to go sideline to sideline, or about his athletic ability or the ability to play in space. The big question marks in terms of his development have always been about pass rush, and I think the early signs are incredibly encouraging. One, because he's already been effective with his hands, and two, because he's developing and improving notably week on week. If Oweh, with that much raw talent, is also this coachable, intuitive and intelligent, then he's got all pro potential. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.